to everybody in Cyberland. Se fair bow allow. At least I hope so. Omodum Odileke coming at you with another great video. All right. This one I've been kind of holding close to the chest. And the reason why is because the controversy is real. And some people are gonna like it, some people are not, but this is gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a real good one. In this particular video, I'm going to mention Jesus. I'm going to talk a little bit about Muhammad. I'm going to speak about the Yoruba understanding of reincarnation. And I want to bring it all together on what is the true purpose and meaning of what is Atunwa, the reincarnation, and why reincarnation is real, and what do we believe in the Yoruba practice. Because that's something that I think lacks in understanding. A lot of people don't truly understand what reincarnation is. So before I dig in, you guys already know, right? If you have not given me the like, if you have not given me the subscribe, if you have not given me the share, then you're doing a disservice to the community. Pass the good word. Make sure we are all preaching the same sheet of music. All right, so there is a couple of things that I want to make sure that we are all addressing here. First things first, what is Atunwa? When we look at the concept of Atunwa, we look at something that's called the reincarnation, right? And we understand that within Yoruba culture, everything is brought into a context of oral traditions. And I can only give you based off of the information that I have gathered through studies, the information that I have gathered from my elders. And we're going to get into this concept, right, of Atonwa, reincarnation. And a lot of people don't understand that when we look at reincarnation, we are talking about the ability to learn from our mistakes. We look at the ability to come back into this world to redo maybe the things that we didn't do well, or maybe go on the path that we should have chosen and that we didn't choose, and it was too far off from our destiny that we cannot survive that mistake. So maybe we have to learn from it again. Maybe we did very well and we reincarnate to something great, right? A CEO of a company, a president of the United States, maybe something that is super beneficial and meaningful to you. And there's many different aspects of what that reincarnation looks like. But then people begin to say, well, what about the people who are unethical? What about the people who are immoral? And we're going to go through that as well, because there's different layers to even that understanding. Remember, we don't believe in a hell. Yoruba philosophy, there's no such thing as hell. God's creations were God's creations. God loves all his creations. God understands that when he gave life, and he gave Ori, and he gave a guardian Orisha, and he gave the ability for humans to create, right, within themselves, he understood that there was going to be layers of complex situations that needed to kind of flow in order for humans to evolve, in order for things to manifest themselves, in order to maintain a balance in life. A balance in life. Remember I said that. So when we look at what is the journey of life, we almost look at a time-space continuum. We look at the aspects of not just time and space, but we also look at parallels, right? We get into a quantum physics type of aspects, okay? So I want you all to envision something. I want you to envision you standing up straight. And while you're standing up straight, let's say these two things here are your legs. And as you touch the ground, there is another parallel universe with someone that's standing but on an opposite side of you, right? Like a prism. But now that person is standing up forward, but to you it looks like it's upside down. But your feet are touching because you touch many different parallel universes in different time and space continuums. Okay, I know I said a mouthful, but Atunwa, the reincarnation aspect again, we believe that the soul, the spirit, the Ori, has immortality. Ori will continue in this circle of reincarnation, right, until God says that time is up. Yoruba practice talks about understanding who you are by receiving, initiating, going through ceremonies, making sure that we follow the concepts of Iwapale, which is our character, who we are, who are we supposed to be, who are we best suited to be, based on what is the Odu of Ifa that you were born with. What was your Ori destined to come here and do? And did we find the balance between this life and our spirituality with enough time to regulate our pathway to get to where we need to go so that when the day we die, we find ourselves reincarnated in the best situated way possible? That is Atunwa. Sounds very complex, but I want to share a story in order for you to truly, grasp what I'm trying to say. In the Odunovoye Kumeye, we look at the character called Jesus. We call him Jesus. And we understand by through trials, right, and by Jesus' errors led him to a tragic ending. Within the Abrahamic faith, we understand that Jesus came, he did some things, he was great, he died, resurrected, went back to Olorum. But here's the thing. Within our faith, we understand that when Ori dies, it dies here. But the soul, Ori, is immortality. Ori will take another physical form, which means that where Jesus left off, another was created in order to fulfill the works of that person. But those prophets, the ones that we call prophets, Jesus being a prophet, Abraham being a prophet, Muhammad being a prophet, we're all prophets of God. You are a prophet of God. We are all prophets of God that just happen to find ourselves destined or aligned with our destiny to be preachers, to be ones that are going to spread the good word, that are going to talk about God. That's why you see a lot of faiths all have a singular being, right? Even us in Yoruba, we have a singular being, Olodumare, the all-powerful God. And you begin to kind of see either there were martyrs, whether we call them saints, whether we call them orishas. There was characters in these stories that all elevated the status of the preacher in order to preach for God. So then I challenge you and I say, okay, we look at that particular story and we say, okay, we respect religion. We understand that we are religious tolerant. We understand where Atunwa is coming from. So we also have to understand that we can't judge the Abrahamic faith for saying Jesus will rise again, etc., etc., etc. Now, all the other hype stuff, fear factor, right? In order to drive the populace, in order to do things that drives their agenda. Personal opinion, don't hate me for it. Then we look at the Muslims. right? And within the Arabic traditions, we talk about Muhammad. Within Otura Mei, we look at the war of Odudua. We saw the war of Mecca. We saw the crusades of the Muslims. We saw a lot of different things that came out of there. And the Abrahamic faith had Muhammad, another prophet that had an Ori that was destined and aligned to drive their culture in a way that would help them rise. And in between, you had imams that were super popular, that wrote super great Qurans, that established laws that are super controversial. Um, hey, we understand through our eyes, through our culture and traditions, that cycle is still going. And we see it today. We see that there's a lot of Muslim leaders with a lot of agenda that leads back to the Quran. Who is to say that they are not a reincarnation of Muhammad? And Muhammad didn't have 500 reincarnations prior to that to get to the point to where he got. No different than Jesus. Who says that Jesus was the first iteration of that Ori? We understand that based on time periods, based on what Ifa captures, 4,000 years even before the mention of Christ, we understand that it is logically speaking, based on the data, that Jesus was not the first. I'm sorry, Christians. It is what it is. You have to put it together. Look at the math, look at the logic, look at the archaeological evidence. Don't take it from me. You got Google. Google it. Start to piece it together. Don't be biased. Have an open mind and look for truth. So, Yoruba culture. Let's get back to this because I don't want to get on a rant. Yoruba culture talks about Atunwa, the reincarnation. We talk a lot about where are we going and how are we going to get there? Right? And we have to look at a couple of Odus now. We got to really kind of dig into the aspects of Odus. The first one I want to talk about is one that's called Irete Otrupon. Irete Otrupon is a sign where Iku, death, enters the home. Babalaos understand where I'm coming from when I say Irete Otrupon. Because we understand in Irete Otrupon, the person, right? Remember, Otonowa is a reincarnation, and that reincarnation comes with some form of judgment to understand how you're going to come back. So bear with me as I kind of better break this down through the lenses of Odu in order to get you to where you need to go. In Irete Otrupon, we talk about the person that's carrying a heavy burden, obligations, responsibilities. In Irete Otrupon, we find ourselves in a crossroad of either we go left or we go right. If we go right, we follow our destiny. If we go left, we find ourselves moving off of our destiny and possibly even walking down paths that maybe could even be unethical or immoral, which then we talk about a different Odu, which is Ikafun, which we have to be very mindful about. Because there is a place for those who are unethical and immoral, those who are judged by the balance scale of life. And what did you do here in order to meet your destiny is a real thing. Understanding that in Irete Otrupon, this is where the bones were first established, right, within the fish. And I find this very interesting because in Irete Otrupon, we even have philosophical and strategic level studies and even critical thinking studies in collegiate level studies, right? Where we talk about the fishbone model and we talk about where the center of the fish is your topic and you have all these little bones, right, that come out, right? Anybody who studied philosophy or critical thinking or strategy understands about the fishbone concept. And I always reflect back to that. Why? Because I think and I say, there's more to the fish. The fish having bones creates many layers and paths for you to deter off of your path. But what Irete Otrupon tells us is that Iku is coming. Iku has decided to already enter the home with the understanding that you are going to break your pack, or you are going to get so far off your destiny that you're going to die. And you are going to have to answer for the lack of taking responsibility, obligations, right? You're leaving the things that you knew were right in order to conduct yourself in a way that was wrong. Because you knew. So that's a very interesting aspect in Irete Otrupon, because Irete Otrupon is where we first start to recognize this thing called reincarnation. Now, we also understand in Irete Otrupon that we feed Ochun with the eguns in certain situations. Not to get into secrets or ceremonies, but Bao allows you to understand where I'm coming from. And we feed Ochun and the eguns together with this sign in order to ensure that we maintain the balance between life and death, relationships, and the relationships for the living and the relationships of the dead, the unity of the two. And who better than to feed it with those who are dead with the pure aspect of Akokan, your heart, your love, your relationships, Ochun. Something to think about as you begin to question or better understand Yoruba philosophy and Atunwa. So then we get into a different aspect of the studies, and we have to look at Oyekun Kana. And where can I even begin with Oyekun Kana? Oyekun Kana, at the end of the day, is a sign where we begin to talk about the illness in the blood. We talk about the things that begin to infect this human corpse that we walk in, right? Because we understand that the body itself, right, is merely just a body. We understand that the immortality is the spirit, the soul, Yori. So we almost have to begin to question, what is this aspect that we talk about when we say, okay, what is Oyekun Kana? And when we look at Oyekun Kana, it is the mere aspect of reincarnation. And we almost have to ask ourselves, when we look at Oyekun Kana, right, and we say, okay, we talk about the aspects of reincarnation, we talk about the judgment, we also talk about the other layers that are beyond this realm. We talk about Oro. We talk about the multiple layers of Oloruns that are out there. A lot of people neglect the aspect that in this faith we have many different layers, right? Because we believe that there's many different layers to Orun. The first one is merely just registering the fact that you died, that now you have to be, filtered through the other layers of Orun, or better yet, the other layers of Orun. But when you see this, you have to give an understanding that this is where we find the other aspect of how do you come back. And Oyekun Kana is the one that begins to navigate for us that people come back as animals. So before I dig into the animals, I'm going to explain a little bit deeper, because I think it's worth understanding why animals. So when we look at Ifa and we look at this faith, right, we look at the aspects of rocks, which harness the energy of the Iremoles, the Orishas, right, in order for us to receive the characteristics and the attributes and consecrate on this world that power, that orisha. That's rocks. But how do we consecrate it? But with herbs, right? The organic nature of things. And then through animals, the sacrifice of their blood. And we do that for who? But for humans. So we still look at humans on the top scale of things. And we look at the humans and we understand that if I had to devolve a human, because let's say, for example, a human is just not acting right, right? I would look at, and let's look at Oyekun Kana. Oyekun Kana, right? That's the one that talks about the reincarnation. That is where if someone of that sign that was destined with already to walk this earth was so unethical and so immoral that they did not learn their lessons, and they still will not learn their lessons in order to be successful and fulfill the mission that they told Olodumare that they were going to do, which is what you already said, in this bag of meat and bones, right? Then Olodumare says maybe they will learn by their spirit animal. Listen to what I'm saying. Spirit animal sounds a lot of what is believed within the native cultures, which is believed in the Buddhist cultures. There's a lot of things that harness the power of animals. Even Chinese studies, in their own religious studies, we find in Taoism the worship of animals, the yearly aspects of animals. That's why sometimes you hear about that this is the year of the dog and the rooster and whatever, right? So you look at it and you say, wow, there is more to this story than meets the eye. Within this world, we all see things very similarly. So let's go back to this, right? Human is so bad, so off the mark, that they now have to devolve. Every Odu has a de-evolutionary animal. Do you know yours? Do you know yours? That is the magic question of the day. So you can honestly sit back and say, if I'm really off my course, I'm going to reincarnate with the possibility of being the animal because I didn't learn as a human. Or maybe I need to be a type of human. Maybe you need to be a woman instead of a man. Maybe you need to be a man instead of a woman. Maybe you need to be homeless to learn the lessons that you need to learn. Maybe you did so well that you're going to be just filthy rich, living in a world and life is just easy. I don't know, right? I don't know. But that should make you do one thing. For all of you who have mano de arula, all of you who are babalaos, you should all go back to your godparents if you don't know and say, hey, what's my animal that is associated with my odu? Because I think that's going to be very important for people to know. And these animals are very primary. There's a pretty good list of animals that you will devolve to. Not because those animals are like the filth of the world, but no, those animals come with characteristics that you're going to learn about. That's why if you have an Odu and you understand the animal associated with that Odu and you look at the behavior of those animals, you begin to see a lot of your behavior in those animals. You begin to see how when they act irate or they act in a certain manner that is very brutal or very vicious in a certain way, that is you. And those are the things you probably want to look out for. But when you see the aspects of family and how they hunt and how they gather and how they take care of family, you need to also look at it in those eyes as well. What do they do well? What do they do bad and what do they do well? And how do they best associate? And how can I take some of those lessons learned and apply it? Because it still connects with you. Because there is a connection of a sliver between time and space continuum, like I was telling you earlier. Different parallels of your own earth, of our own earth. There are parallels. And maybe you're one thing or maybe you're not. But we got to get it right. So I'm not trying to confuse you. I just want to make sure that we all understand where we're going. I give you Oye Kung Fu, for example. Oye Kung Fu, for those of you who are Oye Kung Fu, you come back as the rat. But why the rat? That's the question. That's the question. What does the rat do? Don't look so superficial on the aspects of a rat. Oh, a rat's gross. Rat disease. But look at a rat. Survivability, strength, stealth, speed. How do they, work amongst families, in a community? Look at all those things. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, you can go to Iwuri Mei. Iwuri Mei is the hyena. But why the hyena? That should all trigger some things. Iwuri Osa, the cat. Or you could talk about Iwuri Rosun, the tiger. You could talk about Oyekun Moshe, the pigeon. And you gotta ask yourself why. You gotta ask yourself why. And I think it's important for us to understand. There was a very interesting article, and I'm not gonna say I believe the whole article. I'm not gonna say that the whole thing was factual, but there is a Obanifa Bawala, and he wrote a doctrine on immortality of the soul in the Yoruba cosmology. If you are ever curious to kind of read through it a little bit, but it talks about those different aspects of Orun, right, and what we believe in, because you're gonna get judged, and I guess that's where I really want to make sure that I bring it home. But I also want to make sure that I bring home that you have nothing to fear. Just be the best version of you. Have the life work balance. Understand there is a reincarnation possibility in the making, when it comes to how you reincarnate, human, animal. And remember, in the de-evolutionary scale, if I look at humans, animals, the next thing is a plant. Let's say you even get it messed up so bad that you even can't figure out the animal reincarnation. You will come back as a plant. Maybe you'll figure it out by the minerals and the medicine and the properties and the chemistry of it all, or maybe a plant. And maybe we can reintroduce you back so you can fulfill your mission. That's Atunwa. We're just trying to fulfill our mission and trying to be the best version that we can. So I wanted to make sure I brought you something that had some definitive data, something for you to truly gravitate to and understand. So with that said, hopefully you gathered something from it. Hopefully you didn't take this as, man, he spoke a lot and he babbled a lot. Hopefully you gathered something from it. I wanted to bring something to you that was truly definitive, something that you can truly focus on. Maybe you're a scotch and a cigar person, and this is the video you probably want to listen to. As you pause it, focus, talk about it. But that's Otonwa. We don't believe in heaven and hell and all this craziness that, you're a sinner and you're going to do bad things, don't wear makeup. No. We don't care about that. Did you meet your destiny? Do you know your destiny? Do you know your spirit animal, which is the animal associated to your Odu? That's my question to you. And with that said, Iburu, Iboya, Ibucheche, Cyberland, another great video for you, and hope you enjoyed it.